First of all, thank you so much for making the time for us. Really appreciate
Not at
that.
all. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for, I know you said it's normal time, but 6 a.m. in New York is, I've lived there, so I know it's not exactly the most hospitable place. So,
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, when you have three young kids, 6 o'clock sort of becomes a drill in life, right?
Yeah,
With the
it's
work-life balance, 6 o'clock is almost a
half
ritual.
day.
Half day. There you go. True,
Yeah,
true.
that's right.
So, let me start with my introduction.
Yeah.
I grew up in Rajasthan, Jaipur,
Hmm.
and back in those days, computer science was a little ahead of its time, I guess. We were learning something we did not know what the future was for.
Hmm.
And then I worked there for the next 8 years. But then I got an opportunity around 99, Y2K,
Hmm.
to come to Wall Street and do a lot of Y2K projects. And I did that for about 2.5 odd years and
Hmm.
turned out to be a nothing burger. But we did that, and then at the end of it, I had an opportunity to either come back or stay there.
Hmm.
And I decided to work for a consulting firm on Wall Street again. I stayed there for 8 years. When I moved to Wall Street, it was 2000, and you remember the dot-com bubble.
Yes, of
So we
course.
started my career in US right after Y2K. Y2K is over. I pick up a new job at Wall Street. Everything starts with a disaster. But it was a wonderful 8 years. I learned a lot. The founders of the firm were kind enough to let everybody sort of drive their own business within the firm, and we grew a lot. Um, the firm got sold in about 7.5 years from then, and 2007 time frame, 2006, 2007 time frame, and I left and I started my own company.
Just
And
before the subprime crisis.
yes, all my beginnings start with a disaster. So here I am, young founder, first company. My biggest customer was Lehman Brothers,
Okay.
and so it was a difficult position to be in, and we built on that. The technology in the world was changing around us, and we learned new systems, new technologies, and while all that was changing, we built our business.
Okay.
I very early learned how to raise capital, how to raise how to do M&A.
Hmm.
Um, in order to survive, I acquired a company that was 10 times our size,
Wow.
and then did a reverse merger and exited that, and then went on to do another small stint, a small startup in upstate New York and
Hmm.
Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
And then finally in 2011, founded USEReady with my co-founder.
Okay.
Uh, and Uday, who's my co-founder, was my customer at the previous company. So we used to own Xantage, NetPixel at that time, and Uday was working at Credit Suisse
Hmm.
and one of her, I always say this fondly that he was one of my most painful customers. And when I decided to sell the business, he came up, and usually was his brainchild.
Okay.
And his idea was very simple. How do you enable a user?
Hmm.
So most IT services firms at that time would sell to technology and
Hmm.
enable technology. And he was on the hedge fund side, in the bank.
Hmm.
And his idea was, we need firms who can help the business user, the fund manager, the
Hmm.
trader,
Hmm.
the risk underwriter, right? Those are the users who need enablement, who need ability to make fast decisions. You can't make a trading decision by going to MIS, they used to call it at that time, and say,
I
hey,
know. I
this is
know.
the CIA office, help me, tell me how to make my trade. And they would come back in 3 weeks and say, this is how you should make it. Here is 1,400 pages of data to look at, and it's too late, right? And so UserReady was founded to enable the user ready. And we started on that journey, and we have been growing from that path on. We've received a bunch of recognitions, accolades, done some good work, built a lot of IP,
Hmm.
and we are here today.
So you're
Just a bit.
primarily operating in the BFSI space, or are you also, going looking at other verticals?
So we started out as capital markets player, narrow
Okay.
capital markets player.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we started building our intellectual property,
Mm-hmm.
other customers started finding us, other verticals started finding us. So we broaden our horizon to being in regulated industries.
Okay.
One of the piece of intellectual property we built, one of the products we built, which is called Pixel Perfect,
Mm-hmm.
was recognized by Tableau, Salesforce, AWS as one of the highest selling products in the reporting space.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't matter which product you're using, but reporting end of the day is a need that regulated industries
True.
definitely has.
Yeah.
And so we built this accelerator. It's a SaaS product that we sold, and we started getting customers from healthcare, from life science, from manufacturing, from oil and gas. And so the commonality between all these customers was that they were all regulated industry customers. So we started onboarding these customers. We still onboard 4 to 5 Fortune 1000 customers every 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
We don't call them. We don't have outbound motion in the firm. We're not a selling firm.
Mm-hmm.
Customers find us as a solution to a problem, and they call us,
Right.
and then we go ahead and try and solve their problems, try and sell our product to them, see if our product is a good fit for them, and so we became a regulated industry player broadly.
Okay. So, which includes insurance, which includes all of that stuff,
Yes.
right? Okay.
So firms like Prudential, um, property and casualty, life, all
Mm-hmm.
those fall into that segment. Yes,
All
and
right.
they some of them use our products as well.
Okay.
Yes. Um,
So, yeah. So, Lalit, let me just
yes.
get into your, I looked at your piece that you had, that Rajendra had sent me. And, I found it interesting,
Mhm.
right? But then the question that I had for Rajendra is that, look, I mean, is this one of those you ought to do this kind of a prescriptive, narrative? Or is it one of those stuff which says that, okay, listen, I've been there, done that, this is what it looks like, and this is where you can go right, or this is where you can go wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to understand from your perspective, you know, uh, when you say that AI is a funding problem, it's not a tech problem, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, what exactly do you have in that? I mean, is it an ROI problem? Is it
Mhm.
a growth inhibitor problem? What do you mean by a funding problem?
So, um, there is no one way to go to a place. There are multiple ways to going to a place, and one can make different choices. And we work with large enterprises. We work with mid-market enterprises, and everyone is starting with a simple conversation. I need budget to handle this beast.
Mm-hmm.
And the conversation is about, what do I need to buy? That's what the first dialogue is, right? They're meeting vendors, they're meeting people like us, they're meeting IBM, they're meeting Anthropic, they're meeting ChatGPT, and they're asking, how can you help me? And everybody's handing them a proposal and saying, spend $2 million, spend $5 million, spend $10 million. And everyone is starting from that point, right? Even at a user level, you're saying, where should I create an account? Should I create a paid account, right? And I'm seeing this everywhere. I mean, large banks, mid-market firms, they're handing their employees ChatGPT accounts. They're handing their employees Anthropic accounts and saying, here is Claude, start using it, right? But the challenge is, within 6 months or within 12 months, they're all realizing there is no cost benefit. You're spending more money, but what's the benefit of this? Last night, I was with um, one of the large business families from Bombay. They were in New York. They're an oil and gas company. They're acquiring a lot of manufacturing companies in US. And they were asking me the same thing, that we have embraced AI and we have spent a lot of money on AI, but I don't see an outcome. And the principal was telling me that it may have improved work-life balance for employees. It may have improved the thing that used to take 30 minutes to do takes 10 minutes to do now, but I'm not seeing real financial benefit. I'm actually seeing my cost of business going up at every stage, and now I'm dependent on technology as well. So that's the truth today. That's the landscape today. And what we are summarizing and saying as a thesis is, and again, it's years of experience, and I've seen this cloud data, cloud revolution, and at every stage, what businesses should be asking is, what problem am I solving?
Right.
AI is cool. Everybody needs AI. I understand that. But then what problem am I trying to solve? And what will AI, where will AI create value for us? And we are having conversations with customers where we are telling our customers, can I save you $500,000 in your finance process? Can I save you $5 million in your procurement process? And let's start with that dialogue. Let's start with the problem. So last night, the problem that we agreed upon was a freight problem. They have freight prices. They spend over a few $100 million in freight. And the freight price is not predictable. It moves up and down with things going around the world. And we agreed that we will work with them to save a point or two, a percent or two of their freight costs globally. And we'll use AI to make that change. And that's a good starting point. That's a beautiful starting point because the conversation is very different now. I'm not asking for a big budget. I'm not asking for choosing technology stack. I'm not asking them to educate 5,000 employees and train them in AI, enable them in AI. What I'm asking is, you have a business problem, and we are looking to solve this business problem, and let's start from there, right? So the MSA would look like, for every $5 million you save me, you take $500,000. Now, there's a lot of underlying minutiae about what technology, what AI, what infrastructure, what architecture to use. But we are starting from a business problem, which is very, very difficult to solve. So I'll pause here.
So let me
Does
let me
it
just
make
stop you.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does make sense. Look, and that's my whole problem. Uh, everything about AI makes sense to me.
Hmm.
You know, uh, the narrative is pretty solid. Everything they say makes sense to me. What doesn't make sense to me is that why do you need an AI to wake you up, right?
Hmm.
Because the fact that they're spending $100 million, okay, and that there could be a possibility of a slop should have been evident from using the forensic methodologies of existing technologies.
Hmm.
So why would you then say, okay, existing technologies are passe. Here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in another $500,000 or $1 million or whatever. I mean, no matter what you do, the investment has to be
Yeah.
there. Right?
Yeah.
So why does it take something new from outside to tell you that you have a slop?
I mean, I think change is hard. Generational change is harder.
Mhm.
And I think we as humans want to be kind to other people, want to be nice to our teams, want to preserve our way of living. Change is hard. So when I proposed this yesterday at a late lunch meeting, I could see the discomfort on the table.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
could see people looking at me and saying, would this mean that I will lose some of my team members? Would this mean that I'll lose a lot of budget? Would this mean that I will lose control? Would this mean that I have to share my data, my proprietary data, with you folks? Would this mean that my way of living will never be the same again? And the fear of unknown is unquestionably visible, right, at every stage. It seems so obvious that if you could do this, would you not choose to do this? And I think in large organizations, even in mid-market organizations, there's a fairly large pyramid of people, right? Teams, which runs the business. And I think at every level, different insecurities, psychological insecurities play out, which lead to delaying these decisions. And the reason we started talking to mid-market companies more than we talk to large companies as well, but they drive what they want from us. The mid-market companies, I feel this is a way more obvious choice. Meeting someone who owns a business of 5 or 10,000 employees, having a conversation with them on a table, showing them the art of possible. Um, they behave like you, and they're saying, why shouldn't I have done this long ago? Oh, I did, why haven't we had made that change already? And there's a sense of disbelief as well. Every new technology, you and I have seen, Hadoop,
Yeah,
and
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I've seen technologies from, you know, uh, come from graphical user interface, character CUI to GUI to networking to, mobility, all of that stuff. And
yeah.
whilst technologies have changed, the narrative remains the same,
Hmm?
right? Whether it's a
Yep.
small company or a large company, the narrative is that look, existing is not working,
Hmm.
okay, and
Hmm.
I need to use new technology to drive efficiencies,
Efficiency.
right? Now, my point is that so is this a continuum that you're saying that okay, now you've got AI which will drive efficiencies, and then it will have its own inefficiency building in, and then you'll
Hmm?
have a new technology like
To break that.
to break that. So it's not a generational change. To me it's just a part of continuum.
it, it is a part of continuum. It is truly a part of continuum from somebody who's sitting with that experience that you have, right? For people around me, it's a shock, right?
Mhm.
It depends who you are. I think from where you are looking at it, you have seen .com. You have seen the world going upside down. I mean, everybody on my floor here has not seen the market drop 10%. Market drop 10%, everybody's running on fire, right? Something has happened. And I'm like, no, it's not. We have seen market drop 30, 40%, right? We have seen things go upside down. I was on Wall Street when that happened, right? And so yes, from your perspective, it is a bit of a shock. I think the other thing that is noticeable is the rate of change.
Okay.
When mobility came,
Mhm.
it remained the same thing for many years. It didn't change. We didn't come back and say, hey, mobility 1.0 and mobility 2.0 are so much different, and it came a week apart. Or what you bought a week ago is already bad. We hated Apple for producing a phone every 2 years.
Right.
Here we have things coming every week. We have our beliefs, our value system getting challenged every week.
Mhm.
And every week the new generation is a lot more a lot more complex, a lot more productive, a lot more value oriented. And so that's scary, right? Especially when a market is not very open to change, bringing that change continuously, bringing new things every single 2 weeks and saying, now we have this version of Claude and that version of Claude. And it's a huge risk to the entire environment. It's more predictive. It's much better. The rate of change is just hard to work with. It's very hard to make investments. It's very hard to train people. It's very hard to plan for the future with that level of change. But I agree to your point. From your vantage point, it's a bump. It's a bump in the road.
And one of the recurring themes that I saw in your article, and you just mentioned it also, is
Mhm.
that there is a hidden, investment or fund that is available. All
Mhm.
that I'm going to do is help you recover it or discover it,
Unlock it.
unlock it, and then that be the investment or fund
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
uh, the AI. The question is that if you were indeed be able to recover that slop, as we call it, then why would not the existing re-engineering of technology, okay, just
Mhm.
work fine? Why would you require investment or a significant investment in AI and to take the company forward, especially for
Yes,
small companies?
very true. But when you earlier said that AI makes sense,
Mhm.
um, one of my mentors, Bob, would always say cheaper, better, faster. And he said every layer of technology, every new technology has to be cheaper, better, and faster. The thing that this iteration has broken,
Mhm.
it's better, it's faster, it's not cheaper.
Yeah.
Everyone is subsidizing it for you, right? There is no AI tax today. The water they take away, the energy they take away, there is no tax on that today. We are handing it out. it's like a new drug that is being subsidized for you, so you get used to it. It's still not cheaper. It's actually very expensive. And at scale, it's super expensive. And so going back to your question, you know, this transition, this transition that we're going through, and everybody's running after AI and saying we want to adopt AI. Very few people are understanding the true cost of AI, true cost of AI at scale. And I can give you a few examples, like one of the leading companies in Silicon Valley, which is making um, automated truck driving software.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't need a human to drive a truck.
Mm-hmm.
Trucking is a big business around the
Yep.
world, moving things around. Making it autonomous is a big business. The leading company in that space today spends 3 times per mile cost than a human to make that software work. So if you're paying $1 to a human per hour to drive that truck, you're paying $3 to an AI to drive that truck. It's that ineffective at scale. We know it today. And I think the hope and the transition that we're hoping for is that at scale in a few years, that $3 becomes 50 cents. And we're all going through the transition. And I think enterprises are struggling with that. And mid-market companies are struggling with that more because it's existential for them. So the
Exactly.
folks I met yesterday, the founder at least, the principal at least, understood that they have an opportunity to become a Fortune 1000 company, or they have an opportunity to no longer be a company in 5 years or 6 years from now as this paradigm gets settled. And
Lalit, I'm going to just deviate a little bit because you just gave me a
sure.
trigger. Uh, Question is that again, it's an existential issue. What
Mhm.
happens if it doesn't come down to 50 cents? Because look at the imponderables.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
have
yeah.
data centers which are going to consume way more electricity
Mhm.
that than what is going to be required in the entire municipality in which they're going to be there,
Correct.
right? The
Mhm.
amount of water that they're going to consume is going to be way
Yes.
more than what the municipality is currently consuming.
Consume.
There is a supply side issue. Where is electricity going to come from? Where is
Right.
this water going to come from? Now, if that doesn't happen, and you just gave me an equation of 3:1,
Yep.
yesterday, I read one of the,
Yeah.
the SpaceX quarterly results. They are spending $6 for every dollar of revenue that they're earning,
Yes.
right?
Maybe more. Maybe more. Yeah.
Right? Now, question is, what if that entire equation, let's assume for a minute that you have a dystopian view where yes, the technology is fantastic, it can deliver your nirvana, but it is way too expensive to create the technology and deploy it, okay,
Yep.
and it is not cost effective at all. So what happens in that case? I mean, would
Yep.
the companies who have invested, okay, what happens to them? What happens to the investment? What happens to the balance sheets?
Absolutely. Great point. And so I'll answer it in two parts. If you embrace this technology to solve an actual problem,
Mhm,
and you focused on the problem more than the technology,
mhm,
you will come out ahead. So if the principal I met yesterday is able to save 30, 40 cents on a dollar, or
mhm,
5 cents on a dollar even, for his supply chain problem, that AI will work just fine. It's expensive, but it solves an actual problem. On the other side, billions of dollars being spent without solving a business problem, without solving a business outcome, will be wasted spent, will be lost dollars for sure. So if you trained 20,000 employees on something that doesn't work well or doesn't create value, your CFO will make sure that does not happen going forward. Either they'll create an employment problem by cutting cost on the human side, or let go of technology and say this technology doesn't work for me. They'll have to make a choice, right? But then any business that embraced AI from solving a business problem perspective, that I'm going to make a better drug using this technology. I'm going to improve my trading costs. I'm going to reduce my trading costs. I'm going to improve my trading margins by using this technology, will come out ahead. And that's exactly our thesis. Thank you for taking me there in that fashion, because it's hard to articulate that that I mean again, from your and my vantage, we know for sure 95% of these companies won't exist when we are in the new universe. We have seen that. Mail City is gone. You know, I can Friendsters is gone. I can name a lot of beautiful names that you and I wore hats around, right? They're no longer there. New names came, innovated, and build the ecosystem. So as a society, we will prevail. We will build something new. We'll build the next better technology. We'll find a way of reducing the manufacturing cost of chips. We'll find newer locations of energy. We'll create energy from solar. We'll create energy from wind. We'll find ways of using water that we can't use, humans can't consume. We will go to places where there's abundance of that, right? And find ways of making that work for us. And maybe not now, maybe not next 5 years, maybe the next 10 years, we'll get to that place where the cost is where it needs to be. But will these players survive? Will these technologies survive? Will these brands survive? And enterprises need to be very careful making those choices.
You just sounded very Elon Muskish when you said that, we'll go where, you know, we will set up new
Well,
colonies in Mars.
no, no, actually I'm going to China. The highest energy producer today is China.
Yeah, absolutely.
The highest availability of water, right, of natural resources, or ability to produce a lot of that is in China.
Yeah.
And the truth is that China is far ahead in that game than most of developed nations. And so I mean, sounds very Elon Musky, but I think there are enough places on this planet itself that we need to sort of be agreeable to thinking about those things. I mean, the hype cycle, right, is visible. Why do we need data centers in municipalities? Why do we need data centers in villages? We need to get past that alpha that this is creating for today and think
Yeah.
about tomorrow. So, but my
So,
customers,
yeah.
my customers, I'm always asking this question: what problem are you trying to solve? What business problem are you trying to solve using AI? Just AI, or supply chain, or pricing, or employee satisfaction? Pick an area that you want to fix, and we'll improve that using AI. So you don't have to ask yourself that question eventually. Does this actually create a value for my business or not?
So, in your example, just you just mentioned of this company which is you met yesterday. Uh, Question is, what is because the LLM that they're using today is
Mhm.
also heavily subsidized. Now,
Yes.
small companies, mid-sized companies, and to a great extent, even large companies are going to, be using the frontier models that are going to get developed
Mhm.
by these, two or three or four companies, and one or two of them may not exist. Okay, two
Absolutely.
questions I have here. One, what happens when the subsidy stops?
Mhm.
Okay, which is an easier problem to solve because it only affects your balance sheet.
Yeah.
The second problem is what happens when the frontier model that you're using belongs to a company that ceases to exist,
Mhm.
which gets kicked out in the competition, because this is high
Right.
stakes. You're talking about billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars of investment, and ultimately the one-two principle will subsist,
Of
right?
course. Of course.
Right.
Of course.
So it is reasonable to imagine that at least one, if not two companies in this frontier model space will no longer exist. What happens in that situation where an enterprise has invested millions of dollars on a frontier model of a company which has gone bust?
Current
So,
bust.
two questions around the same LLM model.
Absolutely. And so one decision we made, we said we'll remain agnostic and not make choices for our customers. We will work with the infrastructure of your choice. And and so at UserEady, and it's been long known that USEReady always makes one choice, and we always, and in fact, we picked Tableau many years ago when we were founded. And if customers said, "I'm not using Tableau," we would say, "Good luck finding another vendor," or "I'll recommend another vendor," right? And we would walk away. But when this transition took place, we said, "We will not pick a partner. We will remain agnostic." And and I think the choice was based on what you just said. We understand the risks of picking one over the other. And most sensible customers, most large customers are de-risking themselves in two ways. They are creating uh, multiple models within their systems, and they're trying to hedge their bet by using more than one. They're making more than one choice, right? And they're making two choices. And they're not taking the best model, but they're choosing the model that they think will survive the longest. So they're
Okay.
they're 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 picking, like, making two choices
Mhm.
and balancing that. And within our organization, we try to remain agnostic, and we try to architect things knowing that you may have to swap your models. We're already seeing migration requirements
Mhm.
where people are trying to make those changes early on. So architecturally, design choices and implementation choices, we're always looking to see, to give you that optionality, that ability to move around and not get stuck with one principal choice. Personally, I feel Microsoft and Google um, may not be the best in town as far as the best technology goes, but in terms of cash flows and ability to survive weather this time, they're 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 beautifully aligned. They have built businesses that sustain cash flows, that will live the longest. And I think a lot of our work is built around AWS, Microsoft, and Google. And we depending on the customer choice, depending on who the customer is, what industry they are in, what problem they're trying to solve, we see them making those choices, and we sort of try and build our architecture around those choices.
But do the small companies, the mid-sized companies, have the luxury of a choice? Do
And
they? Do they? Then what happens to them? Because ultimately, they are the foundation. They are the building blocks for the
blocks.
economy, whether it's U.S. or India or any other part of the world, including China for that matter. So,
Absolutely.
how does the game get played out there?
And that's the difficult aspect of that change. That's the change that we want to be a part of, and we're fighting very hard to make those choices. And again, in our yesterday's conversation that we keep bringing up,
Mhm.
I try to steer away from technology as much as possible.
Mhm.
The discussion was going towards LLMs and frontier models and infrastructure and investments, and I was trying to drive the conversation away from those conversations and say, let's pick that as a second step. The first step has to be, who will fund this? Why are we doing this?
Mhm.
How will it create value for the business? Let's get that sorted out first. Then we can get down to these choices, what makes sense for you. And that decision is a different decision. That's a follow-through decision. That's a follow-on decision, right? That's not the primary decision. And I see this constant battle where people are trying to make that decision first, where to go and spend money, where to go and spend dollars, which infrastructure to use, which LLM frontier model to use, versus what business problem I'm trying to solve. And once you have picked a business problem that can fund those dollars, it's a much easier conversation. It's as easy as saying, "Hey, what do you already have?" And we'll build on it. We'll not go out and spend a lot more money to make this work for you, but let's try and solve this business problem. And that shift in conversation is extremely hard, right? I feel sometimes that we are one of the few players who are focusing on the business problem more on the frontier model problem. In the beginning, you asked me very clearly that, hey, why would this change everything? Why would these frontier models change the world? And I'm asking the same thing. Why would it, right? If I can solve it with a lower cost model, or even with a Chinese model, right,
Right.
brought into your environment at the right cost point, how does it make a difference as long as it solves your business problem? Let's focus on the business problem. Let's focus on what your rules of business are and how does it create value for you. As long as I capture that for you within and still create value for you, financial value for you, you're good, right? Even if tomorrow there's a tax on AI, even if tomorrow the LLM models don't survive, your logistics model is set. It's still saving you 5 points, 3 points on your spend. And that's what you're looking for. You should not be looking at which product I'm buying because that conversation is a slippery slope. Then the discussion is walking away from business, especially for the mid-market companies.
Yeah, but isn't that a contradiction of sorts? Because
Hmm?
on one hand, you're saying that, look, I'm not going to get in, I'm not going to influence them, I'm going to work with what they have.
Yep,
On the other hand, their biggest problem is that they don't know what they want. They
right.
don't know what they need because there's so much of hype around it. There's so much of smoke and mirrors around that you know something which was very cool till yesterday, mythos, has suddenly become a villain today morning,
Today
right?
morning.
Okay, so and their biggest what shall I say, the black hole is understanding the technology as it's emerging, and you being a player very deep into that market. Maybe that's why they are moving the conversation onto technology, because
Yep.
business, well, I mean, I'm not saying they know about it, okay, but I guess it's an easier egg to crack. Would you
I
agree
mean,
with that?
I do agree with that, right? I do agree with that. When I was speaking to them about procurement and was asking them, would you need help in procurement? And their answer was exactly what you said. I understand that really well. I have that covered. I understand what I'm buying at what price. And I said, you'd be surprised.
Okay.
You have a portfolio of 10 companies.
Mhm.
Each company is over a few $100 million. The portfolio is over $1 billion. You'll be surprised how much inefficiency and waste
Mhm.
is in the procurement processes that we have found for Fortune 1000 companies. You're a much smaller company. You have a lot more waste sitting inside that business that you feel that you have full control over. And he took a second. And of course he's um, very diligent and very self-aware. And he said, maybe you're right. Maybe there is wastage. Agreed. And my point was that let's focus on that. Let's focus on that conversation. Let's focus on how, let me prove to you, let's do a proof of concept. Let's look at some of your inventory data, things that you think you have a lot of control on. You spend your whole life buying chemicals and oil and gas products, mid-market, right? Let's work together and look at that part of the business that you feel that you have the strongest control on. And let me try and create value for you there, right? Let me try and make that business free from people that are dependencies for you today, right? That there's a human dependency there. If this person leaves or this person is no longer there, you have a huge value risk. Let me help you unlock that value. Let me help you unlock that. The conversation about choosing the LLM, neither one of us is going to be right. Mythos is going to be disappearing or going to be a different model tomorrow morning. We can have that conversation. That's a fun conversation to have. That's a great conversation in the evening at a bar, and we can both be wrong, for sure. Uh, but then yes, I mean, the minute I started talking about something like oil and gas in his case, or software licenses with my another Fortune 1000 customer, becomes, oh, that's my space. I have run that all my life, right? And once you walk into that space, you start finding 15 cents here, 20 cents there, a dollar here, a dollar there, and then you see a broader picture and you realize there is a lot of value here. Um, and we have found that consistently, and I can give you many examples of situations where systems were built 10, 20, 30 years ago, where thinking was different, and then layers of management has created that gap, small gaps across the board that AI helps us capture and create value. So you're right in saying that I have that duality here in my statement that I just made to you. But then once I get a single opportunity to look into their systems in a deep way, do a proof of concept with them, try and show them value, then they truly become believers in what I'm saying.
So here is a thought which just struck my mind. I want you to
Mm.
answer it honestly, and if you can choose not to answer this question also,
Sure.
is that when I look back, we had initially client server
Mm.
that was that concept was used by a lot of companies to enter organizations to provide consulting, transformation
Yeah.
consulting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Subsequently, Y2K was, of course, a big, thing, and they said,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
Armageddon 2000, you're not going to exist. So
Sure.
here is what I'm going to do. I'm going to transform. Then you have this entire thing of social, mobile, analytics, right? And they said, okay, this is come in. Now I'm going to come in, and you've got a lot of slop out there,
Yeah.
excuse me, inefficiency. So I'm going to come and transform, right? So the question is AI in many a case, not all the cases,
Mm.
given the constraints, given the cost factor, given the investment factor, also going to be used as a fig leaf for providing organizational transformation for companies which have maybe become inefficient, maybe
Mm.
become
Mm.
too big, maybe become too sloppy, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of go in there, you do everything. Maybe you don't even use a bite of AI, okay, and that's perfectly fine.
Mm. Mm.
But it becomes an entry point for you to do organizational transformation. Would that be a business case at all?
I'm seeing it in a lot of places. And truth be
Okay.
told, um, you know, there are companies like Apple, there are
Hmm.
companies who have changed the world, who innovated based on data, right?
Right.
And there are other companies who haven't used that energy effectively. So there'll always be winners and losers. There'll be companies who will use AI to transform their entire business. There'll be others who will use AI for things you don't need AI for. Um, I
Okay.
I truly see that across the board. And and as I said, there'll be winners and losers, right? That every company, if it was that simple to embrace AI and change the universe,
Hmm.
every company would effectively do it, but the change is hard. And a lot of companies, we have had situations where customers want to use AI to solve a problem. And I'm looking at my architects and I think this is not an AI problem truly. We don't need AI for this. This is
Right.
not even an AI solution. In fact, Raj and I was having a conversation a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
One of our solutions, I said, maybe this is a machine learning solution. This is not an AI solution, right? We
Right.
don't need AI for this. And we both smiled at each other and said, yes, this is not an AI solution, but the customer wants to put AI in the middle of it and
Right.
burn a bunch of tokens. I understand that. I understand they want to embrace AI. I understand there is a need to do that. But I think we were candid enough to let them know this is a machine learning solution. This is not, we don't need any advanced models for solving this problem. This is much easily done without AI. And a lot of misuse, a lot of wasted spend. Yes, absolutely. I mean, change is always um, bumpy. It's always messy. It always takes time.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, and one of the biggest elephants in the room, which I'm sure you encounter frequently, is this entire issue of enterprise security. Now,
Mhm.
that has been the last 10 years, that has been the number one concern of the CIOs world over, every year, year after year. Now, to me, from the outside, it looks like the situation is worsened or probably is worsening.
Yeah.
Okay. Do the boardrooms also feel the same thing, or are they saying that no, AI will take care of things, or Lalit Bakshi will come and take care of things?
You know, one of the things that always surprises me is that bad people do adoption of technology much faster than
Much
good
faster,
people.
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
100%.
You know, so I think all these bad actors have embraced AI much faster than everybody else.
Right.
And all these newer risks that are getting created, AI will not solve them for you. You will have to build a business that architecturally, foundationally is ready to handle these problems. And that is a huge risk and a challenge going forward for every business, small or big. Um, we 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 have started working on a few pieces in that area. And again, UserReady always believes in building intellectual property in these kind of spaces,
Right.
but the space is itself changing so fast. Um, getting arms around it is extremely hard. So we have built a few frameworks around it, but we have still not productized it as much. We're still in that journey like everybody else. But yes, we do caution our customers, our prospects about that risk. Um, and we as a business are also very vulnerable to the same risk. And
Yeah,
so we are
all of us.
ourselves very aware, right? We're ourselves very aware
Sure.
of what's happening around us and how bad actors are adopting it much faster than everybody else. But I always sort of smile and say, how come these folks are adopting this technology so much faster than my customers? Why aren't my customers as motivated as these actors are, right? Um,
No, I mean, see, it's traditionally, if you look at it, for example, when we started out with compression technologies,
mhm,
video compression and image
yeah,
compression technologies, the first industry that adopted it completely was the pornographic industry.
absolutely.
Okay, and I remember having conversation with in IBM where they used to tell me that, look, if you want to really understand deployment of compression, go to pornography industry. They
Correct.
really get it because there the attention span is 15 seconds and
Yep,
they've got to
yep,
put all the technology out there. So
yep.
yeah, you're right. I mean that's, but coming back to this issue today, does any company or any big or small have the luxury to say that I don't want AI? You know, I'm living with it I mean, living without AI at this point in time, and I will make sure that efficiencies are derived and all of that stuff happens, and I will grow. Is that possible at all?
I've learned never to say never. It is
Mm-hmm.
possible. It is
Mm-hmm.
possible in sectors. Um, it also depends on what your competition is doing,
Okay.
right? Some businesses holistically take time to change. Some sectors are just laggers, right? And there is some room, there is some time. But businesses where margin is slim,
Mm-hmm.
um, market forces are forcing the change much, much, much faster. It's hard to hide. Um, I mean, after COVID, we saw how work from home became a thing, right? How people started remotely working. The change was much faster, and it's still carrying on. In our office in Princeton, we only have people coming in on Fridays, right?
Okay.
And the rest of the days it's optional, right? There are days that I'm the only one in the office, and there are days on Fridays when there is no place to sit, right? And so that change was much faster. I think the geopolitics, the the price movements, the
Mm-hmm.
shock price shocks, the inflation risks, the oil and gas prices, the currency movements, the interest rates are creating an environment where the fitter will survive and the weaker will fall. Our world around us is changing much, much, much faster than it used to. Not just technology. I think everything else also, right? I connect with a lot of other founders, a lot of other businesses, and I can see the look on their face that I don't know if my board will approve this tomorrow or not because of a oil price shock or because of an interest rate shock or because of a currency issue, right? And all those are real problems today. And I think resilience is important. Any mid-market company typically makes anywhere between 10 to 20% EBITDA.
Yeah.
So your entire cushion is 10 to 20%. And all it takes to wipe that off your balance sheet is a 20% shock.
Yeah.
So if oil prices go up by 20% or currencies fluctuate by 10 or 15%, right? Which is very real in our universe today.
Absolutely.
Um, Stock markets, interest rate markets, they're all very, very shaky. And I think good CFOs, good CTOs, good technologists are all thinking about how do I find that alpha? How do I create that value on my balance sheet? which is sustainable, which will take me through those bad times and help me grow. So I think yes, there could be companies who may not do that or may choose to not change with times and still do well. But then in most competitive industries where these things matter, transformation will be much faster like COVID. We will work from home. We will make those changes.
Okay, I don't have too much time, but two questions. One, for the first time in the living memory, would are we looking at a technology which could actually make you weaker than stronger? If implemented earlier, you had computing technologies. If you implemented it wrongly, it would just probably cause you a bit of,
Mm,
tremors,
mm,
and
mm, mm.
it would kind of you would still continue. But would AI wrong implementation or wrong reading of the tea leaves, you know, could actually pose an existential threat to the enterprise? Is the vulnerability gone to that level?
I mean, you mentioned earlier you were in New York in your past life, and
Yeah.
if you drive out New York, you see Pennsylvania area, a lot of coal mines being abandoned, right?
Mhm.
A lot of unemployment getting created. You go to Michigan, one of my early projects was in Michigan, Y2K projects, and I
Mhm.
saw what the car industry changes did to Michigan, right?
Right.
And so change always will have short-term negative implications.
Okay.
Long term, we'll find ways to figure out the right solution
At a holistic level.
at a holistic level. I'm a very positive person. I always find a positive end to every story. So my gut feel is yes, change is going to be transformationally hard. We will make those mistakes. And if you say we won't make those mistakes, I'll say we'll definitely make those mistakes. We'll definitely have a bunch of blips. We'll definitely learn from them. But the cat is out of the bag. If you won't build it, somebody else will. So the change is coming our way. Now, the question is, are you ready to embrace the change? Are you willing to learn from the mistakes? Because that race is on. That race is not going to stop now.
No. So so in fact, you put the right idea. All those coal mines, and all those companies that existed earlier, which do not exist, the brands that were there in my youth don't exist.
Yep, yep,
They
yep.
all became extinct for one reason, which was the demand side factor.
Okay.
Whereas AI is essentially impacting your supply side factor, your cost, your vendors, your number of licenses that you mentioned, utilization factors, bench strength, all supply side factors. I have
Hmm.
not seen a supply side factor being as existentially threatening in the last 50 years. Uh, With your experience, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the coal mines shut down. Coal prices have gone up 3 times. Coal is more in demand today
Right.
in China and other developing countries than ever before. Car manufacturing is moved to Mexico,
Yeah.
but it's on fire. We need more electric cars than ever before, right? So there is always two sides to the coin. There's always two sides to the coin. Going back to my point that your point about will we make a mistake? And the answer is yes. We'll make a bunch of mistakes. We'll have a bunch of blips. We'll have a bunch of moments where we'll say, oops, the fat finger moment will happen again, right? For
Mhm.
sure. But then I think we'll come out ahead with the learnings, with the leadership and the human ability to innovate. We will come out ahead with technology. The risks always keep going higher. I think the risk has always gone higher, right? Putting faster cars out there, putting autonomous cars out there. You're adding risk at every stage, right? You're not taking the risk away. You're adding risk with innovation, but I think we'll come out ahead.
Yeah, in fact, one of my nightmare scenarios is when the autonomous cars start running in Bangalore. That's going to be something that.
I think I always say that we should go back in time and put zip lines in Bangalore. I mean, every time I come to Bangalore, I'm like, hang me on a wire, zip me to the
Is it
airport.
exactly? Yeah, yeah.
You need zip lines. You don't need autonomous cars. You need zip lines or drones maybe, right? I don't think I think autonomous cars is the answer in Bangalore.
So in fact, there is a small article I read in CNN today that somebody, instead of, because of the traffic, he actually helicoptered his way to a Walmart in the US. Okay, I guess we are pretty much getting there in Bangalore.
Getting there. Yeah.
Lalit Bakshi, thank you so much for your time. I think it was a very, very, I would say, very involved conversation, because I really had to go back to my, you know, historical understanding to match with you. But I see a lot of, a lot of good in what you're saying, and I see a lot of optimism in what you're saying. I only hope that AI gives that kind of return that both of us are expecting, and doesn't become an existential threat to a lot of small companies. So thank you so much for your time. I know it's early morning, so have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the time. Thanks, Raj, for organizing this.